welcome back to Connor D. Meadows Farm. Today is September 22nd, which means that it's time to close up the garden. They're actually calling for frost tonight. We may have had a small frost about a week or so ago, but it wasn't enough to damage anything. But tonight's frost is going to be a killing frost. So that means that I might as well throw in a last garden tour before I pick it clean this afternoon. So we have, oh my goodness, everyone's coming to say hi. See the baby ducklings? There. Aren't they cute? So over here, we still have some tomatoes left on the vines here. We will be going ahead and picking them green or not. Basically, anything and everything is going to be picked tonight. Sometimes I put the effort into covering. I'm not going to do that this year. I have too many other things on my plate, so I'm just going to go ahead and pick everything. And those that are not frost tender are just going to die off right away. So it is what it is. As you can see, this is the wild patch beside the chicken coop here. This patch is the patch that we're donating. We have a lot of tomatoes we've already donated this season and a few more left to go, but I'll probably donate some from the main garden as well. We'll flip you around and we'll show you what the apple orchard looks like. Trees are starting to die off on their colored leaves. The comfrey is dying off. You can see we got changing of colors now. We'll still have some nice days yet. We've got apples on a wild tree there. We will still have some nice days yet, but not enough for me to fight for my garden. The goats and the sheep and the cows are out on the last strip here in the apple orchard, and then they'll be moved into the horse field, and then that'll be it for their grazing. The grass needs time to grow back before the end of the season, so they won't be grazing anymore. What are you doing out, Fleur? This is Fleur. She's a Millie Fleur. So she has Fleur. I used to have Millie. Sunflowers are starting to go. I love watching the birds come, and oh, there's some bees on them still foraging. Look at that. We leave them up well into the winter time so that if there are any seeds left, the birds still have food. Blackberries are doing really good back here. Borage has gone crazy. Comfrey is having its third round of flowers, which again we leave for the bees. They're trying to get lots of food. Hey Gucci. This area here was where we had our garlic. I've decided going forward this is not going to be a garlic bed. You can see it got really overrun. I will trim this back and clean it up. We are going to plant, and I like cringe saying this, but we're going to plant milkweed here. We do have milkweed on a lot of other places on our property, but I do want some more close to the gardens, so this will be milkweed for the monarchs. Here's the gardens. It is dying and dead and messy and typical for most gardens at this time of year. You see the tomatoes are dead. The green ones, this is what we're going to be picking today. There's a lot of ground cherries too. They're going to get ignored. The carrots are still fine in the garden, so I'm not actually going to do anything with the carrots. They've got, they can handle some frost. You can see them in there. They're doing good. And the celery can handle a little bit of cold weather too. So today my focus is going to be on tomatoes, and anything else that can't handle a little bit of frost, we'll probably work on the celery through the rest of the week. So that means that things like this, like my cucamelons, which is this little guy here, who I'm going to have for a little snack, we're going to be done. And these beans, they're all brown because I'm saving them for seeds, so if they get hit by frost, that's okay. I'm not worried. This mess here is all carrots gone to seed, so they're fine. There's some onions down in here that I planted as a second planting. They'll be fine, they're underground. And if not, I'll just leave them and overwinter them, and then they'll pop up next year. Kale is good. I don't need to do anything with it. Rhubarb will no longer be safe to consume, so my daughter who likes to eat it for snacks, I've already told her, no more rhubarb, don't eat it anymore after today. So this is really messy in here. A lot of radish that I've let go to seed. I have radish seeds for years to come. I've got some cucumbers that I've let go to seed there, and those I'll be saving, so they're fine. The nasturtiums will die off, and then you can see again I got hit with blight really bad, and then we got scorched, so those will all be not good. So right over here in the corner behind that milkweed, I actually had a wasp nest, so all summer long I could hardly do anything in here. A little bit of lavender here, a whole lot of carrots that have gone to seed. So this area will have to be cleaned up. Haskaps are all tucked in, so they're ready for the winter. Whatever happens with them happens. We just have to come through. So I ran the goats and the cow here and the sheep. I have to come through and just whipper snip that line right next to the black fabric down. So we got the same thing going on here. I do have a couple small cucumbers that are able to be eaten, so they'll just have to be picked. Another funny shaped one down there. Another one there. So they're going to be picked today. Have these beautiful dahlias. I think these ones are called Arabian Nights. Gorgeous. And I have a whole lot of blooms. I'm just going to leave them and see what happens. A light frost isn't going to be enough to hurt the tubers, so we'll just leave it, and then in another little bit here we'll be cutting all these back regardless of blooms or not, and digging up the tubers for the season. Oh, look at that. Part of it fell down and it's hanging out in the tomatoes. But you can see the tomatoes are really awful looking. I do have a lot of tomatoes over on that one. And then I have some dill down here that's gone to seed. I've been letting it. I want to collect all these seeds, so this has got to be collected, but I don't need to worry about that today. There's a lot of other stuff that kind of has to be worried about today. Ooh, it's windy and rainy and just not a very pleasant day out here. Tied the raspberries back. Hopefully they'll have enough time to warm up a little bit and give me some raspberries. We got lots of blooms and stuff in there, just not enough time, I guess. The joys of living in Canada. And I have my honeysuckle here. She's doing really good, putting off some flowers, but I don't know how frost hardy she is. She's apparently good to -40, so hopefully she'll do all right. So here in the garden, this massive thing over here is a Hubbard squash. And just to give you an idea, like this thing is huge. Massive, massive. Some pumpkins through here. I am going to pick some of the butternut squash, but I'm going to also, because these are up on a trellis, I'm going to see if I can cover them with some sheets and stuff. They are really not ready to be picked yet, so if I can avoid picking them, I'm going to. The pumpkins, unfortunately, are spread all over this. Now, I don't know if you remember, this was all corn. I've since harvested the corn and gathered the bundles and sold the bundles as decorations. But there are some ripe pumpkins, and then there's some not ripe pumpkins. But I think we're gonna either, I have no way of covering all of this, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead, cut them, and I'll put them up on the deck where they'll be somewhat protected. These ones here, though, I am gonna cover. And then I have potatoes in the ground here, and this is also a row of potatoes, but they're fine, they're in the ground. I don't need to worry about them right away either. Oh, look, raspberries. I got some raspberries coming in here. They're quite tasty. They're small at this time of year, but very tasty. We haven't had a big picking because most things are just coming into blossom now, which puts us in a bad situation if all we're gonna get is frost in the next little bit. But yummy, yummy. Yeah, so you can see that's a huge pumpkin over there. Those ones are a bit smaller there. And then we have the row of tomatoes here. They're really sad and pathetic looking. Yesterday I spent a couple hours cleaning all of these off. So what's left now is just green or more green stuff. So I just got to come through and literally just pick these clean, and then the frost can have them. My beans were terrible, absolutely terrible this year. I've never had such rotten luck with beans. These two are okay. But a lot of them I've just kind of actually just let go to seed because I didn't have a lot of beans, which for me is very strange. I thought I picked these yesterday, but apparently I missed a few. I had picked the other side, and one of the girls had picked this side, so that's probably why these little ones got missed. But the bean situation's not good. Thankfully, last year we had a bumper crop of beans, so the saying is you feast or you famine, right? But I mean, this is where we're at. Some of these beans, they're coming into flower now, and then I also have seed beans. So I'm like, see, look at this, beautiful flowers. It doesn't really help, and for the few amount of flowers in here, it's really not worth the effort of me going ahead and covering these and uncovering them for the next couple weeks, because we're really going to be in the cold zone pretty much every night. I think 4 degrees Celsius. So we're really, really close to freezing. It's really almost too cold. I mean, beans are pretty hardy, but it's really almost too cold for them to do much of anything. So I'm just going to skip it. Have a lot of other things that I need to focus on this year, so this is not it. Like I said, we have lots of beans left over from last year, so we're just going to leave it at that. I'm just going to focus on getting my tomatoes out of here, and once the tomatoes are out, we'll deal with the rest of it. And then over here we have our peppers. I picked all the red peppers yesterday. This is a lettuce that I've let go to seed. I am trying to collect seeds, but with the wet weather, it's been really, really hard. You basically need them to turn into this. You see this fluff here? This fluff is the seeds, just like with a dandelion. So just like a dandelion, this goes to fluff, and then there is my lettuce seeds. So I gotta put those into an envelope. But it's super hard to collect seeds from a fluffy plant if all it's doing is raining lately. Though I'm not gonna complain because we've hardly had any rain in like the last previous 3 months. So I guess we're kind of making up for it now. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead, all of these peppers, I'm just gonna pick them off. Normally what we would do with the peppers is we would tuck them in under the Meat King pen, which is called the Cackalack, and we would go ahead and we'd put them in there. It's warm in there, it's light, and they would continue to keep going. Unfortunately, this year we did our meat chickens late, so I actually have meat chickens in the pen that I would put them in. So I'm just gonna go ahead and save myself the aggravation. I'm just gonna pick everything, and then only the peppers like this one that have a whole bunch of flowers, I will put extra effort of putting this in and out of some sort of cover so that it can go ahead and continue to produce. But the ones that don't have any flowers, I'm not even gonna bother. There's no point, they're not gonna produce anything at this point. Like there's a couple green ones over here, there's literally no flowers on them. So putting them under cover and babying them along is kind of a useless endeavor at this point. So just to give you an example, this one here, I've picked everything off of it, and you can see there's no flowers on it, so babying this plant is a waste of my time. Same with this one. There is nothing else on it, there's no flowers, there's no indication that we're going to get anything anytime soon. It's just gonna go. This one, on the other hand, there is lots of flowers on it. These are very small hot peppers. They won't take very long to produce. So I'm going to go ahead and we are going to baby this one along for a little bit. That one. There's another one here with some flowers on it. There with some flowers on it. We'll go ahead and we'll baby those ones, but the rest of them I'm just going to ignore. That one you can see is loaded with flowers. So it'll be a pick through and decide which ones we're keeping and which ones we're not. And after the frost has come and kind of killed everything off in another couple weeks, we're going to go ahead, and these 4 rows of strawberries that we have here, I'm actually going to dig them up. We're going to put them in pots. And once we totally clear this garden out, we're going to till this all under, and then the strawberries are actually going to be moved to the other side of the garden. Because strawberries really only do well for 3 years in one spot. They've definitely been there 3 years in here, so that's why we're just going to temporarily smush them into pots, and then we'll move them to that side. I'm really sorry if it's bad with the wind, because it's really windy out. Because it's a blustery fall day, and I figured, well, before I pick the garden entirely clean, let's get this video in for you. Thought I'd pop over here quick to show you. So when my sister-in-law moved out to British Columbia, I dug up some Rosa Sharon that she had at her place. So there's one. This one's still in a pot. I really am stumped where to put this one. So if you have any suggestions on my property, I'd love to hear about it. And then there's this one, and this one's actually come into flower, and I'll show you. It's beautiful. Considering that I dug it up and transplanted, I really didn't expect it to come into flower, but it has. Now it's a little droopy due to the cold and rain, but lots of blooms on it. Very, very pretty. Glad that I rescued it. And as for the flower gardens up in the front here, I pretty much am just going to let them go until they're like completely dead. And I'll collect any seeds that need to be collecting, especially from the orange echinacea, and because I have a few friends that want seeds from that. But I'll just ignore that until it's time to deal with it. And the flowers over here, again, I'm just going to let them die back a natural death. I'm not going to worry about it too much. Once they're fully died off, I'll clean them up, and I will let the goats and stuff go ahead and eat them. I do have some herbs in here, so some mint that I'm going to harvest, and then some herbs in the herb spiral that I've also got to go ahead and harvest. This dahlia here is also struggling to give me a pretty flower down in there. Very beautiful, but it's in with the straw flowers, which due to the rain have completely closed up, which I absolutely find fascinating. Even the ones that have gone to seed close themselves up. I think it's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen. And then I have to harvest. There's a whole bunch of rose hips, so I've been waiting for the frost to come, and then I'll grab them. As you can see, I have harvested this mint once clear already, and there's a whole bunch more. And then there's some tomatoes up here too that volunteered themselves. And then the zinnias and cosmos, they're kind of on their own. Whatever they do, they do. So look at all these dahlias that are just now starting to thinking about flowering. So I suspect that they're just going to get killed off. It is what it is. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'll harvest the rosemary and a bunch more of this parsley. And then I have over here the lemon basil. I'll harvest a bunch of that. Purple basil back there. Just harvest what I can, basically, is my motto for today. Then the flowers and everything back here, I don't have to worry about them. Once they died off, then that's fine. They can just die off, and then we just collect all the dead stuff and we feed it to the goats. Rose bushes too, I just have to give them a feed and put a lot of soil up around them. Basil again has to be harvested, and the kale, it's fine, it's pretty frost hardy. So this is what I would normally put my peppers in. There's actually clear plastic, corrugated plastic, I guess, that just goes on the side that lines it all the way around. And so I can put the peppers in there and they just stay warm. It's kind of like a greenhouse, because while it's white, it still gets heat that comes down in. But unfortunately, these guys are still in here, so that's that. The lavender is looking beautiful. I'll go ahead and grab that and then go around this electric fence. So here is our asparagus beds and the strawberries in them. They're looking good. They're starting to die back. I don't cut these down until the spring. I just let them do their thing. So I don't have to do anything over here. These blueberries, I've already given them what they need. So they're fine. Again, the strawberries are fine. This mess here, I was working on it yesterday between thunder showers. So you can see it's 2 layers. I have 1 more layer of log to do. And this is going to be the new garlic bed. So it's going to be over here. And then the blueberries that I recently planted are there and they've been treated. So everything over here is ready to go for the winter. I don't have to worry about anything here. So yeah, you can see how this would just act like a mini greenhouse, but these guys needed it instead. Thought I would just give you a quick view of what our harvest was of tomatoes. So these were all the ripe ones we harvested. There are beans in the house that are not here for me to show you, but that was our garden haul from yesterday of ripe stuff. So today it'll be all the unripe stuff. So there we go, fast and furious garden tour, because this girl has a lot of work to do today. I have a lot of cleaning up to do. So unfortunately, this will be the last garden tour, even though I wasn't very good about garden tours this summer. I'm very, very sorry. Thanks for hanging out with us on the farm. We'll see you next time.